with Cassandra. We start with Cassandra. Is Cassandra here? Cassandra Alexandra?
I am here. Hi, Dr. Siriani.
Hey, Cassie, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for, the Econ Club, Alexa. I've been emailing you. Thank you so much for putting this all together. I hopped on a little late, so I would like to say Professor Ring was my first econ professor. I didn't start off as an econ major. I dual majored when I was at Oneonta in international development studies and economics. I added on economics second semester of my first year. And he's the reason I stayed with it. I stick with it, He definitely wasn't easy on his students. I appreciated that he wasn't the easiest professor. I had an appreciation for that. I had an appreciation for the energy he had towards us students, for his craft. And he was someone who was just always full of support. So he will be dearly missed. Everyone, my name is Cassandra Alexandre. I graduated in 2018 from Oneonta. As I mentioned, dual majored in, you're gonna have to forgive me, sorry, I ran here because I'm a little out of breath. I had a client meeting run late. I dual majored in international development and economics. And right now I am an attorney. I graduated from St. John's University School of Law this past June, sat for the bar in July, and I'm currently working as an attorney at a boutique law firm in Midtown Manhattan, and I practice employment law, mainly employment law disputes and financial arbitration. So I'm here for any questions that you guys may have today.
That's great. Good to see you. And congratulations on the JD.
Thank you.
Next up is Jennifer Rushlow. Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm a 2016 Oneonta grad. I also dual majored, and actually just like Cassandra, I added economics after, and I think also second semester, first year. I dual majored in environmental science and economics. I then went to right after graduating, I went to the University of Wyoming, where I did my PhD. I got my PhD in economics last year, August last year, and I am now an assistant professor of economics at Illinois Wesleyan University, which is in central Illinois. I'm an environmental and natural resource economist, and I look at wildlife supply chains, mostly like bushmeat hunting and market structures in supply chains in developing countries. And yeah. That's all I've got. I prefer I don't need to be called Dr. Rushlow. I make my students call me Dr. Rushlow, but since you guys aren't my students, you guys can call me Jenny. Only, enforce the formality in the classroom. I don't need to be Dr.
Rushlow. Thanks, Jenny. Are you still a Bills fan?
Yes. last year's never gonna get me down. Been a Bills fan since '94. I can take it. They can keep losing. I'll keep being.
Yeah, same here. Go Bills. Good to see you, Jenny. Next is Olivia Treiling.
Yes, hello. My name is Olivia. I graduated Oneonta back in 2019, so fairly recently. I was an economics major right from the jump, came in that way as a freshman, had the pleasure of being taught by just about every professor in the room right now during my time there. And now I work as a business development executive for a SaaS tech sales company. Specializing in social media management software. They are a startup. We were recently acquired by a larger PR firm. So I work down in the World Trade Center in Manhattan. And yeah, really excited to be here tonight.
Thanks for joining us. Good to see you, Olivia. It's been a long time.
Yes.
And last but not least, Brittany Williams. Hey, Brittany.
Hi everyone. My name is Brittany Williams. I graduated from Oneonta in the fall of 2018. I double majored in history and economics. And since then, I've been working as a paralegal in New York City. Likewise to Olivia, I too work right near the World Trade Center, right off Chambers Street. So my work is mostly working with the circuit courts in estate law. We handle 9/11 cases. So I help victims and people who suffer from 9/11 related illnesses, get them compensated.
Good work. Good to see you, Brittany. And thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. So without further ado, I'll turn it back over to Alexa, who will get us started with some questions for the panelists.
Of course. Thank you so much, Dr. Siriani, for getting us started. And I want to first introduce the e-board, and then I'll explain how the program goes. So my name is Alexa. I am an economics major, and I'm the president of the Economics Club. Logan Conti is the vice president. Justin Almanzar is the secretary. Alex Borbis is our treasurer. And Noah Davis, who I keep losing up in the top where I would pin him, he is our public relations coordinator. So the way that tonight is going to work is every panelist will be asked 2 to 3 questions and during the formal question and answer session. And then we will continue on into an informal session by asking each panelist about their senior seminar project, who advised it, and what the topic was. The order that questions will be asked are myself to Jennifer. Logan will ask Brittany's questions, Justin will ask Cassandra's questions, and Alex will ask Olivia's questions. So that'll be the continuous cycle. So with no further ado, and if there's no objection, my first question for Jennifer is, which undergraduate courses did you find most useful in preparing for your graduate school and graduate studies in economics, and what do you wish you would have taken?
Yeah, so I'm going to try and provide a unique perspective for you guys, but you do interact with economics professors all day. But at least, I have the from Oneana perspective. So the thing that is, I think, difficult about economics grad school for economics majors is that if you don't realize early on that you want to go, you're unlikely to have the math that you need to go. And I know that was an issue for people that graduated in my year. There were people that wanted to go, but they realized too late you need the math, because honestly, the courses I found the most useful for grad school were math classes. I loved the econ classes here. They were awesome. But it's so math intensive that things like you need a really solid foundation in calculus, differential equations, linear algebra, all of those you need to have down really well. And so those are probably the most important. And that's something I didn't realize going into it, that the economics courses are good and they're going to help you, but the math is fundamental. And then classes I wish I'd taken, economics these days is most of our work is done on computers, and a lot of it involves programming. And so having a background in computer science as well as math would also have been hugely beneficial. I had almost no programming experience going in, and that was probably one of the hardest things for me in my first few years in my program. And so, yeah, most useful courses, just all the math you can get. But then the ones I wish I had taken, more computer science, a lot of computer science.
That's awesome feedback. Thank you.
Next question for Brittany is, what are the skills you learned in your economics coursework that have transferred to your current job?
So one of the skills that stood out to me the most is something I thought I would never have to see again after graduating, but I do it every day, is math. On my team, we do a lot of math and calculating awards pursuant to New York State estate laws. So we then make sure that the numbers that we're getting are accurate. If not, we're in big trouble. I think if I wasn't an econ major, I would have so much trouble just looking at numbers. A lot of my teammates, our colleagues, they were English majors, poli-sci, so they haven't had a math class since like high school. Me, I took a few math classes throughout my undergrad career. So having those analytical hard data skills was very beneficial. And in general, economics can be intensive. As a double major, it was very challenging. So sometimes I was always like trying to juggle both majors and the other stuff on my plate. So having those soft skills of just time management came very handy.
Thank you.
Hello, Cassandra. Seeing as you were in law, how has your economics degree impacted your career?
Hi, Justin. Thank you. I think first and foremost, I think we can all say this, and maybe we're all a little biased, but I think economics is everywhere. And for me, I was really grateful to have econ as a background, because econ also led me to concentrate in finance. And knowing that I always wanted to go to law school, I think it really impacted what kind of law I wanted to practice. So as I mentioned, I practice employment law and financial arbitration. I do that right now, and I do that at litigate, and litigation just means you're going to court, you're a trial attorney, basically. And that's not something I want to stick with. I'm actually doing that as an independent contractor right now. And I just got an offer to join legal counsel for a hedge fund. And I'm focused on compliance, risk management, and corporate law. And I think I put that a lot on my economics background and my concentration in finance. Really, you can study anything before law school. So the fact that I studied that, I really, put my interest towards that. And so I really owe that to my economics degree.
Interesting answer. Thank you very much.
Hi, Olivia. How did your background in economics prepare you for your current position?
Yeah, so I think starting my professional career with a company that is growing really rapidly, having that background in economics just kind of really taught me the entire business model, I think, kind of from, top to bottom. It was, working with a company that's selling a product in a very saturated and competitive market. Having that economics background was incredibly helpful, just in terms of, how we price things, how we market things, how to deal with other competitors in our space. And also, internally within the business itself, we are getting our footing and, how to adequately pay our employees and, how that compares to industry standards. And it really does all boil down to economics. Like Cassandra was saying, economics really is everywhere. So, I mean, having that background has been incredibly beneficial just for understanding the entire business and really being prepared for all that comes with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Economics is everywhere.
Awesome. Great first round. My next question for Jennifer relates to a comment that you made earlier about being involved with sustainability as a primary major during your undergraduate career. I'm wondering how you found so many intersections between biology and the related concepts there to economic theory and application.
Yeah, so that happens really slowly over time. I mean, I can attribute it partially to Dr. Siriani, our very own environmental economist. But it also, it's just something I observed in a lot of my environmental classes. So the reason I added economics as a major is that I was seeing all these discussions of policies to protect certain natural habitats or to protect species. And I was just kind of sitting there thinking, well, if we want to actually get this done, don't we need to prove there's some sort of cost effectiveness to this? Like, is it actually worth saving this species? And I was actually in Econ 100 with Dr. Ring as a gen ed class at the time. And I was like, well, I think this actually is the field that's going to help answer that question. And so, yeah, I added economics, took environmental economics with Dr. Siriani. In my environmental classes, I started focusing on fisheries, because at the time that was where I knew there was a lot of environmental economics was in fisheries. I've since learned that it's everywhere. But I was kind of thinking it was just climate change and fisheries. And then once I got to grad school, I went to a program that specialized in environmental economics, and then those connections are coming at you from all over. So yeah, definitely a slow process over time, but an interesting one.
Sounds like you really got to tie your interests into your applications. That's awesome.
Next question for Brittany. What is your best advice to prepare for graduate level applications?
I can go on and on about this, but I'll try to be short and concise. I'm currently in the process of law school applications. I have, I think, 5 or 6 more schools to hear back from. But I think my best advice is to just take your time. For me, I thought I would need to just jump straight in after graduating or take like 1 year off because I was afraid I wasn't going to go back to school. But I ended up taking 3 years off. And in those 3 years, I, developed professional skills. I made sure to, study really hard for the LSAT and create a really cohesive narrative with writing my personal statements and other optional essays. And it has really worked well for me. So I think just taking the time to sit and obviously do your research, but don't feel like you're, in a rush to go back to school. Take your time and make sure that it is the right decision for you. Grad school is very expensive if you're not being paid to attend. So make sure it's the right investment for you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Cassandra. What is something you wish you knew as an econ student at Oneonta?
Yeah, as an econ student, I wish I knew how small the econ community was. I think it was, and I'm not sure how much the demographics have changed and the numbers of students studying econ now, but I remember it wasn't until my senior year I learned that I think there was 20 of us studying econ specifically, not finance, not business administration, but econ specifically. And I just wish I got to know those students more because I think I waited until maybe, last year taking econometrics with Dr. Bauer to see the faces and, senior seminar. And I was like, oh, these are all the econ students. And it really is a small community. And I wish I got to know those people more and network with those people more.
Yeah, what a small world. Thank you very much.
Great. Olivia, given what you know now, what would you tell yourself when you were a college senior?
Yeah, so I think that and I'm sure everyone can probably agree, there is an immense amount of pressure as a senior to kind of decide what you're going to do post-grad, if you're going to, jump right into the workforce, if you're going to go and pursue a postgraduate degree. So I think if I could go back and talk to myself then, I would say that it is okay to not have all the answers at 21 years old and not know exactly what you want to do just yet. All of these majors that, we all are studying in college can be applied to so many different things and so many different careers. And it's okay to, to try something after college and decide that you hate it and want to try something else and, keep doing that until you find what you really like. And yeah, I think I would definitely go back and tell myself that it is okay to not have it all figured out just then and there, especially when you're kind of dealing with those, some competition with some of your friends and some of your, peers, seeing all that they're accomplishing and feeling a little less than, but knowing that, it really will all work out in the end, even if it doesn't feel that way at the time.
Thank you.
All right. So this event is usually a very interactive event, and to maintain the connection that we tend to have with audiences and how they utilize the chat function to ask specific questions for individual panelists or general questions, I am going to shift to the informal session now. So thank you for your formal responses. As we're shifting and as people are prepping their questions and typing it into the chat, would you all mind telling us about your senior seminar project, who advised it, what was it about, using the same order that we did for our formal session?
So I did my project, it was titled How Stockholders Value Hedging Activity. And it was my decision to kind of lean more towards the finance side of things, but I got help from so many professors. Dr. Sirigar and Chu, who I don't think is there anymore, but also Dr. Bauer, with everything that was just econometrics and putting my tables together. It was definitely the most hands-on thing that I did, throughout econ. but I appreciate, because I think it taught me a new way of learning. When I got to law school, legal research just became a primary aspect of what I was just doing on a day-to-day basis and what I do at my work now. And I think that was my first big research project because of all the empirical data that it required. And so I just have a strong appreciation for that looking back. And also just outside of my paper, that seminar alone with just presenting in front of people, practicing my public speaking skills, when it comes to speaking to my peers, getting introduced to professors that I didn't have. I didn't have Dr. K, and I remember, he was always in senior seminar, and I regretted never talking to him or never having a class with him, because I learned that he taught development economics, and I studied international development, and I was like, how have we never met before? But that whole class, not just my paper and that whole process, I look back and have a strong appreciation for.
That is awesome. Brittany, if you want to go next.
Sure. So my project was called Income Convergence Across the United States during the 1940s. I worked with Dr. Bauer on this project. It was sort of an ode to my majors, history and economics, even though it was primarily my econ senior thesis. So I studied how women entering the workforce during World War II helped stir up like income gap convergence between richer and poor states. I found that there was some evidence of that was happening. Initially, it was very intimidating, I won't lie. It was a very scary process first starting. I was like, what am I doing? But eventually, I figured out what I was doing. Dr. Bauer was super helpful. And like Cassandra, I went to different professors in both my econ and history majors, talking to them, gathering so much resources and setting internal deadlines for myself to make sure that I was staying on top of my work, because part of senior sem is like you have your own independence, but that can be tricky because when it's time to present and you're not ready, you will get drilled. So I made sure that I was like, okay, I gotta make sure I'm, doing my research and like presenting, practicing and talking to Dr. Bauer. So all in all, it was a very fun experience. I think, it's really great to do it. And hopefully anyone who's taking senior sem right now, it is scary, but you look back and you're like, okay, I'm so glad I actually finished this class.
That's a great response. As someone who is currently studying history and economics, it's a great idea to definitely connect with faculty and get them to question you early. But I'm going to ask Jennifer to go next, and then Olivia, and then we will go into the chat. And there's already a question that's general for everyone.
All right, so my paper was called, I have to pull it up, How the Removal of a Market Barrier Enhanced Market Efficiency, the Case of WTI and Brent and Crude Oil Prices. And I worked with Dr. Bauer, and we actually published that paper last year. And senior seminar for me was huge because I decided I wanted to make at least part of my career doing research. And I had the chance to take it as a junior, which gave me the time to figure out that this was something I wanted to do, and to decide to go to grad school where research is really all you do. And so it was hugely valuable, but also the skills, as the other panelists have mentioned, the speaking in front of everyone, the taking those tough questions. I think a lot of times that might be the first place that we've really been riddled with questions that, yeah, there's a good chance you're not going to know the answer, and how to work around those and still sound intelligent while you do is a really valuable skill. And of course, it was hugely helpful for me because I got an early career publication out of it in the end too. So thank you, Dr. Bauer. And yeah, senior seminar, awesome.
That's awesome. Dr. Bauer is wonderful. You did get a thumbs up. I don't know if you saw it, but well deserved.
Yeah, so my senior seminar paper was titled Gender and Marital Status Disparities in Employer-Sponsored Health Insurance Policies. My advisor was none other than Dr. K here, who was fantastic during that entire process. So supportive, so diligent the entire time. That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my academic career. But yeah, I mean, the paper was centered on exactly what the title was, those kind of differences between the coverage that men and women receive from their employers in their health insurance policies, and also the differences that they receive, whether they're filing as single or married. So yeah, so definitely, again, echoing what the other panelists have been saying about, being able to field some difficult questions that you may not have the answer to, and, being able to kind of work around them and answer them to the best of your ability has definitely helped, just as I've embarked on my career, whether it be in job interviews or, speaking with executives at different companies, speaking with clients at my own company. So certainly really, really invaluable skills that we all learned in senior seminars. So really, really appreciate that time.
That's awesome. This is great feedback. 3 of the 5 e-board members are currently in senior seminar, so I know we're all taking this to heart. I'm going to open the floor up to Noah to read off the questions from the chat. If it's a general question, we're going to go in that same order that we just did. Remember where you are in the line.
All right, I have a question for every panelist from Kaylin Kiefer. This question is, what skills and tips do you have for current students that will allow them to be competitive in the job market?
Get as much experience as you can. And I know that, from being in college and, trying to apply, it's a changing job market. You have so many more, I think, more opportunities now because there are options for remote positions. Get as much experience under your belt as you can, because one thing that I think that will help with figuring out what it is you want to do after college is just being able to cross off what you don't want to do. And if you are someone who already knows what you want to do and you're kind of set on that, or you have a passion already, just do everything you can to try to get that experience. And if you can't get that experience, get yourself in a room, in a chat where you can have a conversation with someone who is getting that experience, who's where you want to be already. And I think don't be afraid of just reaching out to people. I think I'm very close to the job search process. As I said, I just recently received my first, what I consider my first full-time kind of post-school offer, because what I'm doing right now is not what I want to stick with. You're going to get a lot of no's. Learn to push past that. I know so many people who are just afraid to reach out on a LinkedIn chat with someone. Don't let fear motivate you, because at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do to make sure you're framing your career the way you want it to go. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. The worst thing that could possibly happen is you just get a no or no response. I don't think that's something that you should be afraid of ever. So keep pushing.
So co-signing what Cassandra is saying, shoot your shot. I graduated a semester early from ONI in December. So right after graduating, I was applying to I think I applied to at least 100 firms. I knew I wanted to be a paralegal, work in certain capacity in a law firm. And I applied to so many law firms. I only got 3 interviews and 1 offer in January. So definitely just, cold email, send out your resume, send out cover letters. I think a good skill to, work on from now is just interviewing skills, making sure you're personable. I feel like a lot of firms know you don't have experience. They want to make sure that you could fit in with the other people, the culture of the firm. So you being personable and likable is very key. So make sure when you interview, just come off very friendly and open. You don't have to know what's going on at the firm, but if you can, you like coffee, you like to network, you like to go happy hours, they like to see those things. They actually wear questions at my firm for interviews just to make sure that they fit in with the culture, the people here.
I'm actually going to plead ignorance on this one because I went to grad school so that I didn't have to go through this process. And I have only ever been on the academic job market, and that's a whole other set of skills. So I'm gonna let the other panelists have this one.
Yeah, I mean, can't imagine what it's like on the academic side of things. So kudos to you there. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things is to don't ignore your soft skills. Obviously, your education and your experiences with internships and classes and all of that is very important. All of your competencies are very, very important. Obviously, they're how you're gonna get your foot in the door. But those soft skills of having those interpersonal skills and communication skills and all of that is so important and really, I think, sets you apart. Don't be afraid to kind of use past experiences to your advantage. It wasn't brought up, but it was one of the questions that I saw was intended for me at one point. There was a gap in my resume from 2019 to 2021, and it was because I actually did pursue postgraduate education. I completed 3 semesters of law school and decided that it was not for me. I hated it. No offense to any of the lawyers in the room. It just wasn't for me, and I knew that early on. But it still taught me so much and armed me with a lot of really great information and a lot of really invaluable skills kind of going into the the corporate job market. It taught me about negotiations, and it gave me a ton of resources that I was able to use in my job search process between writing samples and networking opportunities. So don't solely focus on just your education and your internships that you've had. Look at everything that you've ever done and see how you can translate that to the field and the market that you want to go in, and talk yourself up in the interview.
Just to add something real quick, yeah, I work for the past 8 months. I've been working with people in the financial sector who have been fired, who are trying to negotiate, trying to go to another job. And I have to say that everything that Olivia said is absolutely true. When it comes to your soft skills, it does matter, because I think one of the things that school doesn't teach you, and it's just something you're going to have to get from practical experience, is just interaction with people. And I think people overlook company culture and the culture of the environment that you're working in, and how much it affects you, how much it affects your progress, all of that. I think you should definitely hone in on your soft skills, but also make sure that whatever environment you're looking to go into, whether that's like industry environment or just like at the specific job you're looking to work at, that's also a big factor that you should look at and try to kind of study up on.
Thank you. Well, that was very informative. The next question is from Teresa Rogan to Cassandra. She asked, how did you end up in law, and how did you know you wanted to major in economics?
It's Dr. Shannon here. I thought I saw him.
Pretty sure he is.
Oh, hi, Dr. Shannon. Thank you. So I knew from a very young age that I wanted to go to law school. When it comes to what kind of law I wanted to practice, I think I didn't figure that out until college. Dr. Shannon, thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you did for me while I was at Oneonta. I tried to take law courses, even though it wasn't part of either of my majors. So I took classes with Dr. Shannon. I took commercial law, which I think is only for the accounting students, but I said hi anyway. And Dr. Shannon also helped me with my applications, all of that. Even visited me at like my post undergrad internship at ABM. So I'm super grateful. But yeah, law is something that I kind of had in the back of my mind from a very young age. I never really have quite like a concise answer for that one. But I knew I wanted to major in economics because I came in studying international development studies at in Oneonta, and just first semester of classes, like I said, economics is everywhere. And I realized that I wanted to have more of an empirical and more of a calculated understanding of the social stuff that I was studying. And so that's kind of really what leaned me more towards economics.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. The next question is actually from Alaska. She asked Jennifer, what were some of the costs and benefits that you associate with going to grad school right after finishing your undergraduate program and not taking any space in between?
Yeah, so actually Brittany's addressed what I would say are the biggest costs when she was talking about how she took that time and developed those professional skills. I went right to grad school, and I don't know how the other economics professors' grad schools programs were, but mine, like, instead of going out drinking with your friends, now you're just going out drinking with the faculty. And it did not create an environment where you're really developing these professional skills. And admittedly, you don't necessarily need them that much in academic life, but sometimes you do. And I felt like once I'd been in school for, I was in school for like 22 straight years, that chance to, I don't even know, feel like you're an adult, I'm getting that for the first time at 27 years old. And it definitely has stunted my professional interactions, I think, because I still kind of feel like, oh, I'm just out of school, I'm just a kid, and I'm not. But then the pros, especially, with a program like economics, where I said before, you have to have these math skills. If you haven't taken calculus in 5 years, you're going to be in for a much tougher battle than the people that took it a semester ago. There's also benefits to being done early. And it's hard for a lot of people to leave their jobs. So economics grad school, usually you're going to get paid to go there, but you're going to get paid like 15 grand a year. It's not going to be comparable to what you made at a job. And I know a lot of people who always intend to go back and they don't end up doing it. And maybe that's because that's the right choice for them. But other times I think that it's just that's really hard to decide to do, to leave. But there's definitely those costs and those professional relationships that you're not gonna have. And I think that a lot of people are more successful when you've had time to grow up a little before you start doing. It's probably true entering jobs too, though, that it's a little scary those first few months where you're still thinking you're a kid and you have to learn to really pull it together. Yeah.
I think these were some really insightful answers. And to the students that are on the call, as well as the faculty, I encourage you to find all of these alum on LinkedIn and vice versa. I'm sure that there are a lot of questions that we may not have gotten to. Dr. McAvoy does have, it looks like 2 questions that he sent me. So I would like to address just these 2 before we make some closing statements. But the first question, and Dr. McAvoy, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here. I can't tell who this first part is directed to. It says, if you attended graduate school directly as you continued your studies, do you wish you had work experience? And the second part is addressed to Brittany and says, Brittany, do you wish that you attended graduate school directly now without having the benefit of work experience? If Dr. McAvoy wants to chime in here.
No, that was perfect. The way I would say it. There's undoubtedly a clearer way to say that, though.
Okay, I'll start, and then I guess the last question is just for you, Brittany. So applauds to Brittany, because I knew if I went to work after undergrad, I wasn't going back to school. That's just for me. Not everyone is the same, but that is just something I knew about myself. And I knew, like I said, I went to college knowing that I wanted to go to law school. I knew grad school was going to be something I was going to do. So I didn't really have any intention on waiting to get work experience, just because I knew that if that was the case, I wasn't going back to school. And then, yeah, I can't really say I regret anything that I've done. Law school was I found law school very brutal. And so I'm happy that it's something that I got done, and now I can like move on and do everything that I want to do with my career with that. But I think that it's something that you all should take time to think about, really like learn about yourself, know yourself well enough to whether waiting it out, getting that experience, building on your, your professional skills is the thing that you want to do before going. I know for anyone interested in econ for grad school specifically, and maybe, I think Jennifer has really touched on this a lot. I don't know what the econ classes are like now, what the makeup of the requirements are, but I remember a big issue when I was a senior is people finding out, like you're looking at an econ grad program and you're seeing linear algebra 1 and 2, or this math class and that math class is actually a prerequisite to getting into a master's program or a PhD program. And you're like, oh, okay, gonna have to take time to take those classes under my belt because it's not part of the curriculum now. So I didn't know I had to take it. So I think for those of you who aren't seniors and you already, have all your major classes checked off and it's something that you're considering, you should really think about taking those classes and signing up for those classes and looking into what the prerequisites are for those programs early on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Cassandra more. I don't regret going right to it, but I agree that it's probably a very personal decision. I don't think there's a right way to do it. I too knew that if I didn't go right away, I wasn't going to go back. And so if this was something I wanted to do, I needed to go right away. And if you, like Sandra's saying, is if you're interested in economics degree, thankfully, I think I talked to Dr. Siriani my second year, and I think I probably still have it somewhere. He wrote out on a Post-it note for me all the math classes I needed to take if I wanted to go to graduate school. And yeah, that was the only reason that I was prepared, as I had talked to him like my sophomore year and had time to get a math minor under my belt. And so some of these things, I mean, yes, you can always go back, but if you know you want to go right away, make sure you talk to somebody because they'll know how to guide you to make sure that you can do what you want to do.
So for Dr. McAvoy, I would say reflecting now 3 years ago when jumping straight in, I think taking 3 years off, well, I didn't want to take 3 years off, but the initial plan was just to take a year off, but I ended up putting it back. Finally submitting applications in November last year. But I think just 3 years was like the sweet spot. I just grown just in so many different ways. And I think if I jumped straight in, graduating from Oneonta, entering in fall 2019, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I would have been fine, but I think gaining work experience and just having a different mentality than how I was when I was 20, 21 is just so different. So I think it was a good decision for me.
Okay, this is really awesome feedback. Olivia, did you want to make a closing remark before I make some closing remarks?
Are you talking to me, Olivia?
I meant our panelist. But
That's what I thought. Okay.
Sorry.
Actually, I do have one thing I would say. I don't know if Dr. K is going to share our emails or whatnot, but my firm is hiring. And since I'm leaving in June, my slot as a paralegal is opening. So if anyone's interested in working as a paralegal, you can email me and send me your resume, or if you have any questions in general, I'd be so happy to help. And that'd be a great reference if you guys do want to apply to my law firm.
Where are you going to school, Brittany?
I'm not sure yet. I'm down between 3 schools. I still have to hear back from some more, but I'm leaning towards either Vanderbilt or Georgetown.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Olivia, and then the other Olivia, and then myself.
So quick, just because obviously my experiences with postgraduate education are a bit different than the others in the room. Definitely, like Sandra was saying, like definitely know, what you want to do after graduation, if it's between going into the workforce or pursuing postgraduate education. Don't just go to grad school because you think that that's the only option. There are so many different career paths and so many different avenues that you can kind of take, coming right out of school with a bachelor's degree that'll give you a bit more, insight into maybe what you do want to study post-grad. I definitely wouldn't recommend pursuing a degree and leaving halfway through. It was not part of my plan, but I figured better to figure that out then than, get 15 years into a career and change my mind when I'm 40, which is also fine, but I figured best to do it then. But yeah, definitely, consider all your options. Talk to the people in your network, talk to your professors, reach out to alumni. I think I speak for all of us. We're all here to answer any questions that you have after this. But yeah, just take some time to really think about it and don't make rash decisions because you think that that's the only option.
Let me speak for just blindly going to graduate school to avoid the real world. It worked fabulously well for me.
I have to echo that too. I think I had a job offer and I didn't think it was for me. And plus, I really enjoyed getting paid for something very little people care about. So I really like my position.
I think this is great feedback from our awesome panelists from tonight and from our faculty. So who knows, maybe at the end of the year, we'll do one that's just faculty. But thank you all for being here tonight. We did run over, but I think it was so worth it. My heart goes out to obviously our alumni in the room, but also our faculty. Just thoughts and prayers for all of you. I think I can speak for the entire e-board and the rest of the student body that's here. Again, thank you for taking the time to do this and speak to our current students and our faculty. And we look forward to future events. We hope that we get a chance to connect with you again and meet with you again. And our next event is April 7th. So if you'd like to come and see some other alum, feel free. Our invitation to our current panelists. Dr. K, if you have anything else to close with.
I just want to say thank you all for attending, specifically in this circumstance and being here, and looking forward to connect with more students to participate in this program, and specifically for the panelists for such a wonderful comment that's invaluable, in my opinion. Things that we all wish we knew, but they don't know how to access these resources. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here again. And thank you to the Office of Alumni Engagement for working with us to make it possible. Dr. K for making this a huge priority for you at the start of this past year. It's been a great program so far. I will stick around with some members of the e-board, maybe the panelists if they have time. Faculty, you're free to stay and chat.